Good morning, everybody. It is day 2 here at the NERCOMP conference 2018, and this morning I ran a panel discussion, and it was a ton of fun. We spent about 45 minutes talking about cybersecurity and risk mitigation and cloud, and a couple of weeks ago, I happened to have my insurer, who's the Aegis Group, based out of Rhode Island with me. They were in my office, and we were talking about these same things, and I thought, wouldn't it be awesome to have somebody who actually talks to the insurers directly be part of the panel and give us that kind of view, look at it through that lens. And so John Grise is here. John is from Worldwide Facilities. John, tell us what Worldwide Facilities does.
Yeah, Todd, thanks for having me. It was a great time today, great discussion. Worldwide Facilities is a specialty lines wholesaler with 17 offices across the country, and we work and distribute our products through strategic business partners like the Aegis Group.
Fantastic. So today we were talking about cyber liability, and I was coming at it, of course, from the perception of an IT professional,
Yeah.
and also a business consultant thinking about liability and risk. And one of the best things about the panel was that I thought there was a lot of good debate about where risk really is. You mentioned something called risk aggregation.
Yeah.
Explain to everybody what you were talking about there.
Yeah, I mean, so with the Internet of Things and the aggregation of risk into cloud environments, one of the things that we look at in an insurance concept is where do all of our limits reside? So it's very possible that we have certain carriers that will insure the cloud provider, and then they will insure thousands of people who utilize that cloud provider. And when we talk about data risk, the regulatory environment is such that if you own the data, which you do as a member of that cloud environment, you're responsible. And potentially one breach at that cloud environment level could ultimately impact not only their limits, but ultimately, everybody else who's on that cloud. And we start looking at how many limits each one of those people have, and at the end of it, it could be something that's quite possibly more than the ultimate amount of capacity that the insurance company has.
Yeah, what I really took away from it is that, when we think in the IT world about risk mitigation, one of the things that we talk about all the time is, hey, aren't we safer at an Amazon or at a Microsoft because of the resources that they have to protect their environment? And what I took from the panel is that in your world, you guys are kind of blind to that.
Yeah.
You guys don't really see it that way. You look at risk as risk is risk, and it all comes down to what's my data, how much of my data is vulnerable, and what am I doing overall to protect that, yes?
Yes, yeah, I mean, we really have taken the underwriting process and try to simplify it. So it looks at number of records, it looks at how it's stored in some form or fashion, and it's great that it's in a cloud environment because of securities and protections that you might not otherwise have, but the risk for us is the same. There's a presumption that you're going to have minimum standards anyway, and from an underwriting level, it almost really doesn't matter whether or not you're in a cloud or your own hosted services.
Yeah. I was talking to Roy Finkelman from the Aegis Group, and Roy was asking me, we were talking about what Envision is doing, and he was asking me about some of those things. And I had asked him, do all insurers look for the same things when they're deciding whether or not to underwrite a company like Envision or one of my clients? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that if we can standardize it, it's useful, but at the end of the day, the insurance marketplace for data security has been so ultra competitive that there's so many markets out there, there's so much capacity, the upside to the number of transactions expected to be 25 billion in the next 5 to 10 years from the current premium volumes of 2 billion. People have really started to grade their underwriting process to try to grab market share. So as much as we still like to say the risk mitigation is so important, it's not necessarily a crucial underwriting component today.
Wow.
And not to say that it won't be, but it's really not a major consideration.
So
today.
it's a land grab for 25 billion in market share.
Yeah, and honestly, we would expect to see as the losses pile up, it will change and evolve. But right now, it's new, it's exciting, and it's a land grab.
So one of the things that was a big eye opener for me in my conversation with Roy was when we were talking about, if you're an organization that stores, for example, credit card information, and you had 5,000 credit card numbers on your system and you had a compromise, it's possible that some insurers might look at each credit card number as its own unique incident. Is that true or false?
Yeah, no, that is definitely true. And even to the point where you could have one incident, like a breach of your system, that would compromise credit cards and bring in PCI, which is a contractual obligation. It could have regulatory implications under the liability section. And then you'd certainly have breach response services, which are a proactive coverage once you discover it, of forensics, notification, credit monitoring. And a lot of policies will even have additional limits or additional retentions applied for each one of those triggers.
Right.
We really focus on best in quality, best practices, and we've reviewed the variety of the forms. It's not an exciting business, as you can imagine, but we review the forms to make sure that those are the things that you don't get caught in, because there are no two policies written the same.
I got news for you.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks their business is not an exciting business. Like,
Yeah,
I go home and start talking to my wife about IT, and she is awesome, but I always wonder in her head if she's like, this is the most boring thing in the world. So, thinking about those individual incidents that we were talking about earlier, what really hit home for me with that was the notion that, hey, if you have a $50,000 deductible per incident, and you had an insurer that looked at every card as its own incident, you might potentially have 2,000 incidents with a $50,000 deductible. Is there any way to actually protect against all of that stuff? Or is this a do the best you can with what you've got?
No, I think there is a way. And, again, it's so important, obviously technology and the purchasing of online products, it's quick, it's easy, it's simple, but you don't have the appreciation of the language. So when you engage an insurance professional like the Aegis Group, who can really offer the consultation, right? And I think that's what it is. I mean, whether or not you buy the coverage, you don't buy the coverage, making an informed business decision is really the most important thing.
So I kind of suspected I knew what his answer would be, but I thought it was important for everybody to hear this. This is why I'm a guy who owns and runs a technology company. I don't buy my policies online. I don't do that for this exact reason, because I want to talk to guys like John who are going to tell me things that I might not otherwise know. And it's my local carrier, Roy over at Aegis Group, that connected me. Yeah. So, I still think there are some things that you just, especially in risk mitigation and cyber liability, that you just can't outsource to the internet solely. You need good advice, good guidance. Yeah.
And I think more importantly too, insurance, as much as we're insuring new technology, it's a very old business, and relationships are really fundamentally important. And advocating on behalf of your clients is something that you can't really do through email. You have to pick up the phone and talk to people.
Yeah, well, John, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to come
Todd.
and talk to me today. If you guys want to learn more about this kind of stuff, talk to Roy. Talk to somebody like Roy. But if you want to talk to Roy, you can find him at aegisgroup.com. If we want to learn more about your organization, what's the website for us to go to?
The website is wwfi.com.
wwfi.com. All right. Well, John, thanks again.
Thank you. Take care.
All right.
Bye now.